goes live in 2 minutes. Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Yeah. Here we are again. Imagine that. It is the 20th day. Is it the 20th? Yeah, it is. Of whatever the hell. January. That's correct. And the year, don't even ask me. 2015. Have you managed to get your check writing? Nobody writes checks anymore, so you don't end up writing the date very often, which, well, I don't know why I'm babbling. It's Tuesday. That means my sister Susan should be on the line. Hello?
Hello.
Hello? Hi, Suze. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
Oh, God. Your tone belies the words.
Well, I was just thinking that I hadn't talked to you since the
Packer game. Yeah. It's okay.
It's okay. I mean, honestly, I don't even care, but I was so aggravated I couldn't stand it.
Yeah, that was a tough loss, to put it mildly. Yeah, right.
Yeah.
So to hell with all of it.
Yeah,
Now we can go
so
back to our principled stand against football.
Right.
Jeez. Okay. I have to get something off my chest. To start with, I was listening to, maybe it was CNN this morning when I was getting ready, and the anchor person said that I guess the government of Yemen seems to be falling as we speak. And Yemen is our ally in the war on terror, and it's falling to guys we don't like. And she said this, so-and-so, we go now to so-and-so, the only reporter on the ground in Yemen. And so-and-so came up and started talking, and I'm thinking, this phrase, on the ground, where did that come from? Where the hell else is a reporter supposed to be?
Well,
hovering over.
They found it when someone went missing once, and they found them on the ground.
Yeah, went missing is another one that drives me stark raving mad. They didn't use this on the ground in Yemen. Why wouldn't you just say?
Oh, because they're like soldiers now, and and it's like boots on the ground and reporters on the ground. They're actually there.
I suspect it is. It's coming from that. But I mean, the English language would suggest that all you need to say is, we have a reporter in Yemen. That's what we used to say. He's just in Yemen. He's not on the ground.
It's like one person hears it, and everybody else doesn't. I'm noticing on local TV that reporters are currently using the word now all the time.
Oh, yeah.
So it's like their thing. Now, the reporter says that, now the mayor said that, now the police officer said that, blah, blah, blah. You're going, no, it's not now.
Yeah, but you know what? That almost sounds consultant-driven. That sounds like no matter what, you want to be in present tense, you want a sense of immediacy, you want, so it'd be now. And I've even seen this in, they use present tense for something that is past.
Right.
Oops. Sorry. Did you hear that sort of back of the throat belchy kind of a thing? It wasn't technically a belch because nothing.
Because you didn't belch. No, I didn't hear it, but now you've announced it.
Well, Celine heard it.
Well, I'm sure it is something. If they wouldn't all be suddenly switching to that word. But frankly, when everybody says now at the beginning of every sentence, it's annoying.
Yes, it's very annoying.
Consultants, it's damned annoying.
Well, if you start toting up the number of annoying things that television news does, I mean, we could be here for the next 5 weeks.
I know. I mean, I don't.
Do you even watch anymore?
I sort of don't watch it.
No, I really don't watch it. Every once in a while, I'll think there's a big local story that I want to know. So I'll turn on, and I don't know why I don't learn. I'll turn on the local news, and you know what? They'll lead with a water main break or a fire somewhere when there's a big local story. I mean, but it's not a water main break or a fire. It's just, and every time that happens, I say to myself, don't do it again. Just don't. But every once in a while you think, but they have to be leading with this thing. They're not. Oh. Okay, so anyway, next time you hear, and because I've said this, for those of you who haven't noted it and haven't been annoyed by it, now every time you hear on the ground, you're going to be annoyed like me. I do like company. Gee.
Well, for all our screaming about it, it doesn't seem to matter.
No, it doesn't.
I put in the comments, so-and-so didn't go missing. It wasn't their intent. They had no part in it. It simply happened. They are missing. I mean, it really makes it sound volitional. It's an absolute blaming the victim phrase, if anybody thinks about it.
That's right. It's a blaming the victim phrase. Well, you even said, and I hope you don't mind me saying this, and now I've lost it. Damn it! In the science section today, Susan.
Yes.
Can you access that rather quickly on the front?
Yes, I can.
Okay, on the front, you have said there's a thing here about an older man who says he has a very specific directive about his death. And one of the things he's saying is if he doesn't recognize his relatives, if he doesn't speak in coherent sentences, he wants them to remove food and water from him. So this is pushing the envelope a little bit, because this is saying it's not just my body, it is dementia. I don't want to live that way, and I want to die then. So I think, though, but I don't have the front page part of the article, because I think he rails about the euphemisms, this is more about words, that we employ for death. Do you see it?
Yes.
Give me the euphemisms.
Yes.
They've passed on. They've
Right.
called to be with the Lord. I know I see that all the time in the obit. So-and-so was called home.
Okay, but it's not on the front page of the thing.
Well, it was. Are you looking online?
I know. I've grabbed the newspaper.
Science section, first.
Yeah, I see it, but I don't see his list of words on the front page.
Huh. Okay.
I'll get to it. Keep going.
All right. So, I mean, that just drives me wild.
Yeah, it is. Although I have to speak from unhappy experience, I don't employ those terms. I tend to use the word dead for dead.
Yeah.
And it shocks people.
It does. It's like, but that's what I'm saying. We have to, like, mush around with it. So, do you see the list he has? What does he have?
I'm still looking.
Oh, you're still looking for this list. I mean, it's just sort of in a sentence. But it drives me crazy. And even if you're writing a letter of condolence, right. I always get hung up there because I want to say death, because that's what we're talking about here. That's right. What's happened. And then I worry that will be upsetting to the person I'm writing to about the death.
Right. I'm sorry, I am not.
Okay, don't worry about it then. But the euphemisms.
I have run into this several times because
unhappy experience.
As people know, my husband died several months ago, and I don't know how because it was big news around here. But there are people that I run into that don't know. I can tell when I'm having a conversation that they don't know. And the conversation will inevitably end with, give Eric my regards, and I, say something along the lines of, I wish I could do that. I can't. He's dead. And, I mean, these people just like... Oh, God. But he didn't pass away.
Well, what could you say? What would you say?
He didn't pass on.
He has... Well, the one you say that you just infuriated you after a while. I mean, this is what you...
That I lost my husband.
I'm so sorry that you lost your husband.
Yeah, and I didn't lose my husband. I did not misplace him. I know exactly where he is, and I'm unhappy about it. But no, I didn't lose him.
It almost feels like when you say lost your husband that it's something you did.
Careless. Yeah, I was terribly careless. And I've actually said that to people, who say I'm so sorry about the loss of your husband. I said, well, actually, I didn't lose him.
He died.
He died.
So,
it's about people not wanting to confront the truth of the situation.
Exactly right.
I mean, it's really, and I'm sure that one of the reasons that I'm so brutal about it is to help my brain understand the truth of the situation. So I'm probably more brutal about it than most people are, but I'm intent on accepting where I am, and so it further aggravates me that people seem intent on protecting me from this knowledge that I live with daily.
And that you have to live with daily,
and that there's no successfully, I have to live with daily.
Right. So, I read the obits constantly, mostly because I'm interested in lives, not death. But obits are stories,
right.
And but it annoys me. It is rare that you will see an obit say died.
No, so-and-so passed away with his family surrounding him.
Loving family.
So-and-so, method maker,
right.
So-and-so.
Went home. That's the one that drives me. And they're always dying peacefully. That is rare. I don't even buy that when they say it.
Well, the only reason that you're dying peacefully is because the hospice people are giving you morphine.
Right. But...
This is a cheery conversation.
Well, but there's this article.
Good morning, Pittsburgh.
Good morning, Suze.
What?
But there's this article is apparently this is several states, Susan, including our home state of Wisconsin. The legislatures have banned the withdrawal of oral nutrition or hydration no matter what a person's directive says.
This has been a huge thing, and this is why people put in their directives, I don't want a feeding tube. And the reason why when you put a feeding tube in to a loved one, you better understand that their chances of being able to take it out without that person, and unless that person makes a startlingly full recovery, it ain't going to happen. So that is the problem with inserting with these extraordinary and artificial things that next of kin do because they aren't ready to face what's happening to their loved one. And it's selfish. It's damn selfish.
Yes.
But you have to. Each of us has to take it upon ourselves to face our own mortality, and to have discussions with our next of kin about what we want to do and how we feel about it when we're compos mentis and when we know it. And let me also say, anybody who makes their next of kin promise that they won't put them someplace is also inappropriate, because it might be that your loved one physically can't care for you, and then they feel guilty because they've made a promise.
Well, that's true. Yeah.
We keep ourselves alive much too long, and then the government takes over. I hate to sound like that, but the state governments take over with these rules,
mm-hmm.
and your medical decisions are, without your being aware of it, taken out of your hands. So, yeah, I mean, people better think. Do you want to tell your loved ones, hey, unless it's just a temporary thing, I don't want a feeding tube, because that means I'm going to be stuck someplace being kept alive, basically artificially.
Right.
That's how you die from Alzheimer's. You stop swallowing. That's how you die.
Now, but this article brings up some, questions that we don't know. They quote an ethicist here at the University of Pittsburgh, Alan Meisel, and he says people in their 50s and 60s who have seen their parents' deaths say often that I don't want to be in that situation. I don't want to put my family in that situation. And people increasingly voice those views to others, sometimes in a formal way or, through advanced directives. But then he goes on to say, but there's this other question. Let's say in your 50s you say, I don't want to be kept alive if I don't recognize my son and daughter, or I can't speak in a coherent sentence. But what if, when that happens to you,
you don't feel that way?
Right, because you're still extracting some pleasure from existence. But you've already, your younger self, assumed that she would not want to live that. Do you know what I mean? That becomes a problem.
And here's what I have to say. We know how to treat our pets. We know that these creatures that we love more than anything. We know when an old dog is still getting pleasure, even though they're nowhere near the animal that they were. And we know when it's time to say, okay, there's no pleasure left in your life. I think at that point you do have to trust in your loved one's ability to discern the reality of the situation. I know people that have Alzheimer's that are happier now than they were when they knew what was going on. I'm thinking of one woman particularly. She's totally happy now.
Oh, man. If I could have Alzheimer's like that, I wouldn't mind it.
So,
Really?
But her loved ones can see it.
Yeah.
So, at a certain point, the people that you appoint to be your medical executors, those people should know you, love you, and understand you.
So this old guy that is the subject of this story says this, and I don't see how anyone can disagree with this, but clearly most state legislatures do, and the people haven't thrown them out, and no one's in the streets about it. But he says this: I don't want any church the government, any doctor or hospital, or even any member of my family to contradict what I want for my death.
Well, I think he's totally entitled.
Right. I agree. We have a caller. Caller, hello?
Hey, Lynn, it's Mike from D.C.
Hi, Mike.
I heard this guy who had a lot of autism in his family, and what he said he was going to do was he was going to make juice in his refrigerator that was poison, and then if he ever forgot that there was poison in that juice and he drank it, he would know it was time for him to go.
That's genius. On so many levels, I can't stand it, but okay.
So you think that's genius?
No, because how many times do you go into your refrigerator and just grab something and drink it and go, oh, wrong thing?
Yeah.
I actually don't do it, but I'm only 50, so maybe that's what I do. But I thought that was a genius way of working around that, because part of the problem with autism is
autism
you don't know.
Autism or Alzheimer's?
Alzheimer's. I'm
yes.
sorry, Alzheimer's.
Yeah.
Yeah, you don't know when you don't know.
Yes.
So anyway, I thought that would make you smile.
Thank you, Mike. Yeah, we could. Thank you.
Sure.
For extracting a smile from this and laughter from this subject.
You're welcome. Bye.
Bye.
But I would like to point out that, in many cases, the person with Alzheimer's is not the one who is unhappy. It's the caregivers around them.
Yeah.
Because so a person with Alzheimer's doesn't necessarily know. They know in the beginning that they're slipping, but when they're there, they're, as I said, in the case of this woman, she's happier than she's ever been. So it's, but there was the case of that young woman cancer patient with brain cancer that made all the news a few months ago because she went to is it Washington or Oregon, which I forget which.
It's Oregon, I think.
Oregon, which allows a death with dignity, and got a prescription and chose not to die the way her body would die, but to be in control. And I do, listen, we all have that right because people commit suicide with great regularity, but it is in fact illegal. I mean, we have these situations where husbands and wives who have helped each other go have been charged with murder.
Right.
I mean, juries usually end up, saying, sorry, we get it, and it ends up okay. But
adding to the pain that somebody is going through by charging them with murdering the person they love the most in life is a little...
this is a church-driven issue.
Yeah.
This is, people use religion to say, you can't take out, you can't take life support away. You have to do, and there are conversations that I have had with members of the family about how the church would view, feeding tubes or extraordinary, measures, and they have consulted with priests about what is the appropriate thing to do. The church has very, definite standards about this sort of stuff. But I'm not a member of the church, so I don't want my legislature to tell me what is appropriate or not appropriate to do at the end of life. The other argument that they have is that it would lead to wholesale slaughter of elders by their awful children who just didn't want to take care of them.
That is so, always the fear-mongering. Remember, somebody pointed out the other day that as usual, it's the right fear-mongering about gay marriage. If you have gay marriage, all hell, society crumbles, right? Well, we have gay marriage now and have had gay marriage for a long time, and guess what? Nothing has happened.
Well, society is crumbling, but it has nothing to do with gay marriage.
No, right, exactly. Jeez. Oh, Susan, the reason you didn't find that quote I was looking for is because it wasn't in that article. It was in the one under it. It's a.
I told you, I scanned that whole
article.
I'm sorry. It wasn't there.
I'm sorry. It's in a review of a book by a actually he is the nation's No, he isn't the nation's poet laureate. So why does it say that? Anyway, he is a writer and an author, and he has a new book out called Essays After 80. He's over 80 years old, and he doesn't like it. And he's railing about it's he who's railing about the not calling something what it is, which is, I guess, how I started with, our reporter on the ground. He says fatuous euphemisms for dying. Rest in peace. Meet your maker. Crossover. There's one. Transition. I've seen that.
Transitioning? Oh, for heaven's sake.
Oh, I've seen that more than once lately in the obits.
Oh, for heaven's sake. I mean, talk about people who can't handle the truth.
So-and-so happily made the transition. Transisted. What? But he talks about how growing old is such a pain, and it reminded me of our brother's book, Losing It. That is the name of it, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
Losing It. Because he says, if you these essays that he has written on growing older, he says, are really a ceremony of losses. You just start losing things. You lose your driver's license. You lose your hair. You lose your teeth. You lose your eyesight. You lose your hearing. You lose whatever.
Bladder control.
That's right. Bladder control. The thing that amazes me most about growing old is how you dry up.
Yes.
I think it's more a drying up. It's like going from a plum. What are raisins made? Grape to a raisin. It's a sort of
Yeah.
It's a wringing out of, because we're mostly, what percentage of our body is water?
I think like a whole lot. Like
right. Yeah, right. It's a huge, and the thing about growing old is that you start sort of like drying up, and it's part of the reason that you lose stature. I mean, the losses become amazing. And he says
Except for fat. You don't lose fat, it just drops and moves.
Well, gravity has at you.
Well, yeah. But I mean, the first sign of old age in old white women is that they're well, I don't know if it happened to you, but my ass just twirled around and moved to my stomach.
Your ass twirled around? Well, first of all, you don't even have much of an ass.
What little I had, all the fat in it just totally moved to my belly.
Well, what I found, the fat does redistribute.
Yes, it does.
There's no doubt about it. And it tends to go, around, it gets into your midsection more than it ever was.
That's right. That's what whenever I go into them for a massage, I always tell them to pay special attention to reorienting the belly fat back to my ass.
It's not, you can't do it. Short of surgery, I guess.
Well, haven't you ever noticed when you go in for a facial that they spend an inordinate amount of time seemingly trying to, like, put stuff back where it was? So, like, they're pulling your face back up to where it was. They're pulling your chin back up to where it was. They're putting your eyes back in the place they used to be.
Well, it's a losing. And
then you stand up and it all falls back.
I know.
So I just call it going in for, an occasional petting because,
it's just right.
It's just nonsense.
It's useless.
Yes, it is. But it amuses me as I'm lying there thinking, that ain't going to work. That ain't going to work.
This old guy who wrote the essays says that he still can write prose, but he can't write poetry anymore. And he says this, poetry abandoned me. The sound of poems is sensual, even sexual. That requires a blast of hormones. And so when testosterone departs, so did my poetry.
Wasn't that interesting? His poetry came out of a place of just passion.
Well, but I mean, he also focuses on the one thing that scares me the most about being old, and I gotta warn anybody who might see me as an old person, I'll kill you. If I have an ounce of, do not treat me like a child. Do not infantilize me. And he said he was once coming out of a cafeteria at a museum with a friend, and the guard said, "Did we have a nice din-din?" Well, you'd want to strike that thing with your cane.
Or when a person 40 years younger than you calls you honey or dear.
Well, tell me about that. I went nuts in the hospital. Yeah, being called honey or dear. Sweetheart. Okay, so don't put a...
you just smile and say, you may call me Ms. Cullen.
Yeah.
Respect.
When I first saw that this was something to fear was when I was sent to cover, when I was in TV news, my first, so-and-so celebrating her 100th birthday in the nursing home, and we're going to cover this. Oh, my God. I think it was the first time I'd been in a nursing home, and all of those poor old people, wheeled in their wheelchairs, and those horrible, party hats put on their heads. And I thought, if anyone tries to put a party hat on my head, I'll kill him.
Yeah, I didn't even like party hats when I was
Exactly right! I didn't want to wear them when I was a kid.
I thought, why do I have to look stupid?
Yeah, what is this thing about looking stupid? I don't want to wear a stupid pointy hat with a little elastic under my chin. Forget it. So, if you ever encounter me as an old person,
watch out, she's going to hit you with her cane.
Yeah. Be careful.
It is terrible. I mean, and my mother-in-law is at the stage where her children are getting together and just making decisions for her and about her as if...
Who?
My mother-in-law.
Oh.
As if she doesn't have a brain, which she does. She's sharp as a tack. And believe me, she resents it. I mean, I understand the need for occasionally stepping in, but to exclude a perfectly functional person from the decision making,
I agree.
It's just not respectful.
Totally disrespectful. We've got to.
And if you don't have the guts to say, "Look, Mom, we have to have this discussion," that's your problem.
We've got a caller. Hello.
Hello, Lynn.
Hi.
From Canonsburg.
Clarence. Hi.
There was you guys were talking about death and getting old. There were all kinds of things I wanted to say, but then when you brought up get into a nursing home and having older people look stupid, they have me. I've been to nursing homes to do caricatures.
Oh God.
And most of them, these are very, very, people in wheelchairs where they have to roll them up in line and they just sit there. Some of them don't even know that I'm drawing them. And the workers are lining them up to bring them in. And, there were a few, of course, who were, still loose and they just can't get around, and they had a good time. But most of them were just sitting there. Come on, smile, Mr. Jones. Come on, look pretty, Miss Johnson. Isn't that sweet? I was getting angry.
Yes, you do. No, you want to pummel these people. You get very angry.
Yeah. I was like, I can't believe they treat these people like this. And so, of course, I go to my nephew, who has a little bit of his mom's, heart. But dude, if you let me end up like that, I'll get the last bit of common sense that I have. I'm killing you if
Forget assisted suicide. What about assisted homicide?
Yeah, that's what I will. But fortunately, he has a daughter. She's only 11 right now. And I haven't talked to her about it. I said, hopefully, that I could, because she has that logic that I have.
Yeah.
To give you an example, my mother died very young, at 53. But her best friend had died 8 years before that, and she was laid out for a week. So she tried to talk to my older sisters about, I don't want to be laid out like that. And they were, oh, no, Mom, I don't want to hear it. So she comes to her, cold-hearted, Spock-like son and put everything in my name. And so she was out for like a day and then in the ground the next, right?
Good for you.
Good
for you.
Yeah. And you should have heard, the people who, my mom was, very popular human being. The people, who were out of town and didn't have time to come in were like, Clarence, I can't believe you didn't give me a chance to come and see your mom, oh, my Lord. And I was like, hey, she told me to put her in the ground the day I listened to my mom. You know me. And I'm talking about older ladies and aunts. I'm like, you know me. I said, that's why she came to me.
Right. Right.
So, yeah, and the problem was that they didn't want to hear it. My sisters, the older sisters. So I told my nephew the same thing. To listen, dude. I said, don't put money in the ground. You just burn me up and have a party or something. I said, don't do it. And hopefully he'll listen. But he's a little bit too sensitive. He got a little bit of his mom's sensitivity. But his daughter, the 11-year-old, is me again. So hopefully when she gets to her 18, listen, Liv, I need you to listen to me.
So she's the one. Okay.
Yeah, I think she's the one. And as I'm saying this, I'm saying that's the thing. When you go to family members, you got to pick the right one who's going to follow your instructions. Don't just do it to anybody. Somebody who can take it, somebody who can, because a lot of people, are a little bit too sensitive to do that kind of stuff. It's like, pull the plug. Oh, I can't, I'm going to miss you and all this kind of good stuff.
Yeah, but that's selfish. They're thinking about, I am going to miss you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Exactly. And that's the thing. That's what I confuse people with that because I was like, a mama's boy. How could you do that?
Because I loved her. Because I love her.
Did what my mom said. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Gotcha.
Yep.
Good to hear from you, Clarence.
Same here. Okay.
Bye.
By the way, I like the fact that you brought this subject up. That's why I like you guys. Most people wouldn't bring this subject up and talk about it.
Yeah, but I suppose we have probably the smallest audience we've had all week or something. No? Yeah, it's like no one wants to. That's why there's euphemisms. No one wants to think about it, talk about it, or yeah. Well, thank you.
No, you're welcome.
Okay, bye.
Yeah, but that's true. But it's so unhelpful to refuse to accept the truth and to refuse to deal with the truth. It's not helpful. It's not good for you. And it just delays what you're going to have to do in the end anyway, which is deal with the fact that someone that you loved died.
Is gone.
They're gone, permanently gone. And you can tell yourself whatever your religion tells you about it, but the fact of the real fact of what's going to happen in your life is that person is gone.
It occurs to me.
And that's just it. It's better to face it.
Yeah.
And I realize that most people don't feel that way, so the poor person that's walking up to someone who just, quote, lost somebody might offend them if they say, I'm so sorry to hear your husband died. But I don't think so. That's all you have to say. I'm sorry to hear your husband died. I'm sorry to hear your mother died. They were wonderful.
That's it.
We'll miss them.
Right.
That's all you have to say.
People get so nervous and they don't know what to say, and that's where all the euphemism crapola starts coming in, I suppose. That's part of it. Anyway. Celine tells me there's a documentary on Netflix that's called Advanced Style. And it's about women over 50. So 50 is advanced.
That's his lowest.
That's his lowest.
That's like the youngest
The youngest, 50, who are particular, and who made that documentary? A young person.
30s.
30s, right. Oh, dear.
It's most incredible women, though.
Oh, yeah. I mean, women of style. I mean, Susan, I forget what I was wearing the other day, and somebody said, "What a beautiful jacket." And I said, "My mom gave it to me." It was one of, the things she goes through her closet and says, "Here."
Right.
And she had given it to me earlier this year. And I said, "My mother gave that to hand me down from my mom." And he said, "Your mom?" I said, "Yeah. I mean, the fact of the matter is she looks more stylish than almost anybody ever in the room."
Always has.
And always has. So this idea that, it's like worth a documentary that a woman of 92 can be stylish.
The point he's making.
The point. Oh, I see.
That we ignore these people.
Oh, the point he's making, I misunderstood, is that astonishingly, you can still be stylish at 92. You know what I make a point of doing? I think I've said this before. If I encounter a woman, an older woman, who I find just startlingly beautiful, and I find myself looking at.
Right, you tell them.
I tell them.
Right.
I always have. There's a clerk in a state store here in Pittsburgh. Every time I see her, and I once said, I don't say it every time, I just said it once, I had to, I just said, "I just want to tell you, you are so beautiful." And you could see that she knows, I'm sure she must have been an extraordinary beauty. But our culture tells us that when you don't look like you're 25 anymore, that you've lost your beauty.
That you're invisible.
Oh, beautiful.
Invisible. I mean, let me tell you something.
I notice it too.
I sat in a restaurant meeting. Got there early. I was meeting some friends for dinner, and I was pleased that I had gotten there early because one of the things that's happened in the past year is that no one lets me pay for anything, and that bothers me too. All of my couple friends didn't suddenly get a second wife that they have to support. But anyway, so I go out of my way looking for ways to, reciprocate. So I was glad I was there early because what I was going to do is order the wine and pay for it for the table. And there was a waiter working the section. I sat there for 15 minutes trying to get his attention. And he did not wait on me until the other couple walked in.
That's right. Welcome to being an older single woman.
The male of the couple walked in, and suddenly this male waiter was right by me.
Right.
And I looked at him and I said, "Well," I said, "you really screwed up." I did. I said, "I've been sitting here for 15 minutes and you refuse to look at me."
Invisible.
I mean, you refuse to look at me. And I said, "Andrew, I'm picking up the check tonight because I want to be the one to tip this young man."
Whoa. Whoa.
Well, he was very attentive after that. But really, I just want you to, I want people to look around and start to notice how women who are alone at a certain age are just treated as if they are not there.
That is correct. And I'm of that age, so I've been there.
I'm of that age now, too.
And you know what? I mean, I guess I was more surprised by it because I've always been sort of and you too, we're people that are hard to ignore. We are
noisy, yeah.
We're noisy, demonstrative,
we talk to people.
We talk, we're strong, we're this. And so all of a sudden to be treated like you're of no consequence is so maddening. I just I sometimes talk, I'll start talking to young guys sometimes, and it's amazing how uncomfortable many of them become. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
As if what? Old age is catching?
I know.
Catchy? It's contagious?
I started my morning with a phone call from my nephew in China.
Yeah.
And that just makes me so happy that this young man,
still loves you, yeah.
Just calls me,
yeah.
To tell me stuff.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, not only which is that it's very strange to be able to speak to China and have it sound like,
It's around the corner.
It's
I'll
around the
tell
corner.
you. So, Kristen writes, I've been seeing another trend for obituaries. How do you feel about people posting a picture of their departed loved one? I like those pictures. I like to see an example of the person.
No, I think he's talking about taking a picture of the person after they're dead.
No. Here, wait. For example, say the person passed away at 93, and then there's a picture of them in their 30s.
Oh, yeah, they do that all the time.
Well, but now, if the person wanted to, here I was in my prime, I think that's the person's choice. You don't know if they made it.
I mean, first of all, people have to understand that a lot of people are preparing their own obituaries before they go, or they want approval of what.
When you take a picture of Mom now, our mother, and and she'll acknowledge it's a good picture, she often says, "Oh, well, that's a good obituary picture."
She does. But I think she would also like a picture of what she used to look like.
Do you think?
Yeah.
So you can do two. You could, and I've seen some of that.
They do too.
Okay. Now in our paper, they're doing them in color, and I find that unsettling.
And they're making the pictures bigger.
Yeah, but the color is unsettling because color is something that's about life. Mm-hmm. The dead don't have color. They are drained of color. And black and white is good for the obits. But color, I mean,
it's more of the denial. It really is.
I think so. William Wright, Jane's Fonda, 77, and looked regal, positively regal in her role on that short-lived cable show, The Newsroom. It was good to see her in her best working ages and in good form, too. I think she looks too skinny, but then she's an actress.
Yeah, I just...
don't like her.
No, it's not that I don't like her. It's that I don't think that she looks natural. I
agree. She looks a little pulled tight.
She looks a little pulled tight.
But she doesn't look like she doesn't have wrinkles.
No.
Right? Yeah.
Right.
But she looks like she's fighting gravity, or surgeons are fighting gravity for her. Yeah.
But she exercises. She does everything she's supposed to do and continues to do it. So who knows? That makes a huge difference. Moving.
Oh.
Moving. Exercise.
As our mother says, just keep putting one foot in front of the other. She doesn't sound like that. That's what she says.
She does.
Yeah, and she does.
And she's so funny. She's been, I mean, here she is, in her early 90s, and she's in Wisconsin and afraid to go out to walk like she does. So
because of the ice.
Yeah, so I've been calling her, and several times I catch her out of breath, and she's been walking
up and down the stairs.
Up and down the stairs.
Yeah, that's what she does.
Yep.
We have a caller. Hello? Hello?
Good morning, Lynn.
Hi.
Hey, Lynn, may I give you a compliment?
Yeah.
I met you at the show on Parakeet, Mike. I met you at the
oh, yeah.
And when you're live, you're much prettier than you are on the screen on the
It's a compliment.
Yes, I know.
I saw you and Sally Wiggin one time. She was in a van, and the same thing. When you see the woman in person, it's like stunning. When you see them on TV or on a screen, it takes away a lot from your beauty. It really does.
Oh, I know that. Cameras are not kind to me. Never have been.
No, but you're a beautiful woman.
Well, thank you.
No problem, Lynn. I'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Well, that's nice. Well, you are a beautiful woman. That's what you were saying in your one-woman show. You did a whole segment about left-handed compliments.
Because I've always heard that. Always heard that.
Well,
television does.
That I thought it was you, but you were so pretty.
That I thought, no, that can't be her. Yeah, I was always a bitch making my living on television that made me look icky. And still does. I know it. So I have a very difficult time looking at myself in general. But that's another thing that's hard about growing old is watching your youth, dry up and fall. I mean, your face changes. It does. And
Yeah, it just does.
But I think, and I know Bill, our brother, who's made a point of really looking into what happens when we grow old, he says when we look at ourselves in the mirror, we really sort of see our younger self. Even as we recoil from what we're seeing, but we're still being kinder to ourselves. And so there's always this kind of shock when presented with a true depiction.
Well, it's very clear to me that the image that we have of ourselves, what we see when we look in the mirror, from the time that we are small children up until our ancient years, is never what other people see.
No, that's true.
It's totally different than how other people see it.
It's true.
And I have a problem with that because I try and look at myself objectively to make sure that I'm not looking like an idiot at any given moment. And I know I can't.
Well, the other thing is a mirror image, which is what we see, is not a true image. Isn't that true?
Well, it's reversed.
It's reversed. I don't know what that does. I don't know.
I don't either. It means that you're discombobulated, that your part's actually on the other side.
Oh, my God. So, I hadn't meant to spend this much time on this.
And then talk about something else.
Well, let's just finish up the emails. I am laughing at much that you have to say. I am in your age group, and my husband died, and his obit said he died. I often say, he is no longer with us. I think it has some humor to it. Of course, I often explain he died so no one feels sorry that I was dumped for a younger woman.
Exactly.
And regarding the nursing home assisted living, writing checks every month for the ongoing existence of a 96-year-old in excess of $6,000 per month until all the savings are depleted is a subject you didn't touch on. Thanks for a good show. Isn't that the truth?
Well, it is true. I mean, everybody, I'm suddenly getting all of the people that are saying, you better get some, nursing home insurance, and I'm going, I don't think so.
Yeah. Oh my God.
I'll just send myself off a cliff.
Okay. All right. Oh, we sort of touched on marriage. What am I? I was looking at something that said marriage, and that's not what I want to do. Religion. And religion, getting mucked up in our legislatures, and religion being. I wanted to tell you the Pope. Do you hear what the Pope said?
Yeah.
He said
you don't have to be like bunnies.
The Pope told Catholics you don't have to breed like rabbits.
And that you should be responsible and only have the number of children that you can care for.
But this is all while he's saying, but contraception is still off the, because that's absurd.
It is absurd.
But he did use the term breed like rabbits, I believe, right? And
he did.
Yeah, that's...
And listen, I don't care. This guy can do no wrong. I mean, once he started banishing Burke and then banished him even further, I just thought, okay, this guy is forever in my prayers. I like him.
Burke is the cardinal that used to call St. Louis home and is the most... I think he is insane. I think he is. And he was the one who had been put by Pope, was it Benedict or John?
Benedict made him like the chief judge of the court.
in the Vatican. He elevated him to the top thing. This is a guy who is so misogynistic, so homophobic, so he's beyond belief. And he came out with...
This is the guy that recently, talked
blamed
about
women.
It's the feminization of the church that causes is why there's so few priests.
No, and is why priests abuse children.
Right, because they're scared of feminists.
He said as soon as you let girls serve on the altar, the boys stopped doing it. And because boys don't want to be with girls. And he said some of the most astonishing things.
It's very telling. I mean, it's very telling. He's telling you his truth. He was a boy that didn't want to be with girls. And if you see how he dresses, you can understand it.
But he's so homophobic.
He is one of the most,
done up
of all of them. He is in lace and ruffles and
he's a total homophobe.
Right.
I wonder, Cardinal Burke, you have heard the Shakespearean phrase, "She doth protest too much."
Well, we don't know any of that, but I'm just saying that his disrespect and hatred of women is really sort of totally amazing.
It is, and you almost have to tip your
no discomfort.
None. So I mean, he is, and in some ways, this is we were reading Dr. King's letter from the Birmingham jail yesterday, and in that letter he said he'd almost rather deal with a member of the KKK than what he called a white moderate, who who sort of says the right things but doesn't really. He wants certainty of who this white person is he's dealing with. And that's sort of where Burke comes in. At least he tells you what he's thinking, and a lot of other cardinals, priests, people in general feel like he does, but they won't say it out loud. So there's something to be said. So just speaking of religion, there was in the business section of the local paper today, there's a report on an employee winning a case against his employer because of religious objections he had. Now, the employer is Consol Energy, and this guy worked in one of their mines, I think, and Consol changed over to a scanning system to track their employees when they came into work, when they left for work. They would simply scan their hand, right? This guy refused to have his hand scanned. He said he feared the scanner would imprint him with the mark of the beast. And the employer actually had the maker of the scanning thing come in to talk to the employees. And they were called Recognition Systems, Inc. And they made it very clear that its hand scanners, quote, do not in any way have the ability to detect or place the mark of the beast or any mark on a person's hand. Do you believe that? That the Consol did that or had them? Yeah. Well, and then the manufacturer went on to say that those who are still unsure by the company's assurances can instead place their left hand with the palm up in the scanner, and that should take care of the problem because the scriptures consistently refer to the mark of the beast being found or placed on the right hand or forehead. So they're saying you can take your left hand and put it upside down or whatever. And they made all of these efforts. This guy refused, and ended up having to retire before he wanted to because he simply refused. He won.
God.
the employee won. And here's why I think he won. He won because it turns out that the company had made some, there were 2 other employees who were missing fingers and couldn't use, I guess, the scanner well, and they had made arrangements for them to simply punch their numbers on a keypad. And I guess he hadn't been offered that. So that's where it turned on. But he got $150,000 in punitive damages, and he's probably going to get his back pay and a lot of other compensation. And the court also said that it was an okay religious objection, I guess. You know,
which only goes to show you, excuse me, for all of you who are hardy believers, that this is ridiculous. I mean, really.
The mark.
I mean, here's what I don't like. I don't like it when a company is doing their best to be disrespectful. I mean, but doing their best to
be respectful, and they still get screwed.
And still lose. I think that they made reasonable accommodation. And I think that there's a difference between thinking that the sign of the beast is going to be put on your hand and having a medical condition that would make it not work. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
And they made the law requires proper accommodation, and I think they made it.
Or reasonable accommodation.
Reasonable accommodation.
Right.
And I think they made it.
Right. Well, tell that to the
I'd appeal.
court.
Although it probably costs more in lawyers' fees, so you might as well just,
eat it. Right. So there you have it. Well, Suze, thank you. You were a wonderful addition to the program today, and we've got a lot of emails suggesting that people enjoyed the show, despite the
death. It's fun.
Death.
Or at very least, it's a way out. All right, goodbye. I have stuff to do.
Yeah, who doesn't?
Yeah,
Goodbye,
okay.
Suze. Love you.
Bye.
Bye. All right, and as for you guys, goodbye, too. Goodbye. Tomorrow.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.